Hello and welcome to lgtm on Cloud Native TV. Hello and welcome to lgtm. Today we are talking with some members from SIG Release about contributions to the Kubernetes project. Before we begin, there is a little bit of housekeeping. First, this is an official live stream event. That means an official CNCF live stream event, and as such is subject to the CNCF Code of Conduct. So please do not add anything to the chat or questions that would be in violation of this Code of Conduct. Basically, be nice and respectful of myself and my guests and everyone else in the chat. Okay, now as I said, today we are talking about SIG Release, and I have three fantastic members of the team here to talk to us. Could we please just take a wee moment to introduce each other, not each other, yourselves. And we'll start with Ray in the corner there, loop down to Sonia, and then across to Divya, please. So Ray, take it away.
Sure. Hello, my name is Ray Lahano. I am the 1.23 release lead, which is starting up in a little bit over a week. Also a field engineer with SUSE by way of Rancher Labs.
And Sonia, could you introduce yourself, please?
Hi everyone, I am so excited to be here. I am based in India and I have recently graduated from my bachelor's. Professionally, I am working as a developer relations engineer at Tendermint, an open source blockchain company. Apart from all this, I am involved in different open source organizations from the past 4 years. I started with Mozilla Firefox, got involved into CNCF, Kubernetes, and also recently I started working on CSS standardization in Chromium, Gecko, and WebKit, the three main browser engines. Yeah, and in my free time I sleep a lot, and you should. Yeah.
Awesome, thank you. Divya.
Hello everyone. I am really sorry if my net is glitchy, so apologies for that in advance. I have a bit of a network issue going on at my place, and we've just called the guys to fix it. But notwithstanding the network issues, I work with HSBC in my day job, and I got involved in the CNCF sphere of things because I wanted to learn more about Kubernetes. So mainly got involved with the Kubernetes project as a release shadow, and making edits in documentation. And once that was done, I guess I got hooked on to staying on in the release team because it's such an awesome place to learn new things. So I was one of the release lead shadows in this gone cycle, that's 1.22, and we had an awesome time there. And apart from that, I work on Litmus Chaos and love speaking about my experiences within the projects in specific. So yeah, that's
All right, thank you very much. And thank you all for being SIG Release members. I don't think people really fully appreciate just how much work goes into cutting a new release of the Kubernetes project. And I think after today's conversation, we can hopefully give people a little bit of insight and perspective into how this all works. So why don't we start with a nice, easy question then? What is SIG Release? Does anyone want to take a first stab at this one?
Sure. So SIG Release is a Kubernetes special interest group, and the mission of SIG Release is to ensure the production of quality Kubernetes releases on a reliable schedule. And starting with 1.22, we changed to 3 releases a year cadence from 4. So 1.22 was just released on August 4th, and 1.23 is scheduled to be released on December 7th. Part of ensuring high quality of Kubernetes releases, the group is also likes to maintain a consistent group of members as well to support the release process, because it does take quite a bit to release Kubernetes.
So it's not just get tag and get push. Is that what you're telling me here?
Yeah, it's not as simple as just get tag and get push, but
Could we maybe like? So I served on SIG Release. I think it was around 12 months, 18 months ago. And if memory serves me well, there are different teams within the SIG Release group that all focus on different responsibilities for each release. Which groups were you all members of? And can you maybe share a little bit about what their responsibilities were? Who wants to go
Sure.
first? Sonia, thank you.
Yeah. So in the Kubernetes 1.22, I was a CI signal shadow where I had to make sure that the CI is always green, to monitor the jobs in the dashboard, flag any type of blockers, and also to make sure that all the E2E tests are passing. Before this release, I was part of release notes for 1.20 and 1.21. And at that time, my duty was to review and create pull requests for every alpha beta minor release of Kubernetes. Yeah.
All right, thank you. Divya, what about you? Which teams within SIG Release have you worked with?
Yeah. So I started off with docs really because docs is something that I really think contributes to the value of a project in general. After which I decided comms was a much better avenue for me to contribute because I think, I mean, at least I feel that I'm a little better at communication than I am at other aspects in the project currently. So I decided I'd give it a shot, and I had a really, really great mentor. Even with dogs, even with comms. So Savita was my first lead with dogs, and she taught me a lot about the whole documentation process within the release thing. And I had a mentor in the form of Joseph for comms, after which I transitioned to leading comms in the 1.21 cycle. And in this current cycle that just ended 2 days back, I was one of the lead shadows, which means that I was leading. I wasn't technically leading, but I was helping Savita, who was the release lead, in coordinating the various stuff around the release and ensuring that the release actually gets pushed out the door. So, being a release lead, honestly, is lot more responsibility, and I'm sure Ray has a lot more knowledge than on that because he is the 1.23 lead. But it's a lot more challenging than the individual roles because it involves overseeing everything that is there within the release, and I got to personally learn a lot more as a release lead shadow than I did when I was a part of either role. I mean, it was like a huge learning curve from being a lead for a particular sub team role, and transitioning to the release lead shadow. It was a huge learning curve for me because I got to learn about all the other aspects of the project. So yeah, that was my journey within SIG Release.
Awesome, thank you. Any more teams to add to that, Ray?
Yeah, so I started with Kubernetes 1.18 with the release notes. And with release notes, you collect and you fine tune the release notes using a tool called Krell, which is the Kubernetes Release Toolkit. There's a subcommand in Krell called release notes, and that actually came about from 1.18, just from shadows that actually worked on the release notes team before it was a different process. So that 1.18 shadow team was actually took the effort to help with automating release notes. in developing that tool. Shout out to Adolfo and James from the who also shout outs with me on 118. I continued with release notes into 1.19, then docs in 1.20 and led docs in 1.21. I was kind of a lurker in SIG docs before joining the release team, so that was pretty natural for me to go to docs. And docs is responsible to coordinate all the documentation updates for the new release. Like if there's a new feature and that's alpha, or changes in a behavior, or any features go into GA, there has to be documentation that's updated, or feature gates as well. So we make sure there's high quality of standard for the documentation, and that it also follows the Kubernetes style guide. So after docs, like I mentioned, led docs in 1.21 and 1.22 as part of enhancements. And enhancements collates all the enhancements that is targeted for the release. So this could be new features that are in alpha, features might go into beta, graduating to GA, or deprecations as well. So that's fairly big, especially in 1.22. So with enhancements, you also verify that the enhancements, which has a proper Kubernetes enhancement proposal called a KEP, and make sure it's updated, it's maintained properly, and also has a production readiness review, which or PRR, and make sure that enhancements merging into Kubernetes, it's up to prod standards, that's observable, scalable, and supportable. So after enhancements, so 1.23, I will be the release lead for 1.23. So that starts on August 23rd and scheduled to be released on December 7th.
Nice. I think we heard a good array of the different teams there, right? So docs, I think, was mentioned a couple of times, which I always think is a really fantastic way for people to get involved with the project without having to write code. Kubernetes is a huge project, and writing code for it can be a bit cumbersome. I also heard CI Signal. You're brave, Sonia. I always found that the most intimidating team within SIG Release when I was on it, because it seems like they had so much to do. Is that just my perspective is wrong, or is that one of the tougher ones, do you think?
Well, I won't say it was a tougher one. Personally, for me, when I started with 1.20, I was kind of a lost person. Maybe you can say because of the size of the community, everyone around you is so experienced that feeling nervous around them is quite normal now. So for CI Signal, I would say you will be you are going to have a proper onboarding. Our team lead is here to help you out, and we rotate our duties weekly, so that everyone knows how they are doing. Also, it helps us to not to pressurize over over one person.
Yeah, maybe we could dig into that, and I'd love to get everyone's perspective on it. But signing up for being a member of SIG Release, is that a large time commitment? Is that something that you felt affected your job, or were you quite comfortable merging them or mixing them or juggling them together to keep things going? What's your perspectives here?
uh, I would say it's a tricky question, but I would say specifically for the team leads, it is definitely a time commitment thing. And for the different teams, you're not going to have a lot of work around the whole 3 months. For some of the teams, it is around the initial phase. For some of the teams, it is around the bug fixing phase. So it's going to depend, and sometimes there's a huge lot of work that got compiled at the last, and we somehow have to push and maybe take help from other contributors. So and personally for me right now, my graduation was going on, and I had so many interviews. This time definitely I missed so many meetings. Yeah,
Yeah,
so
okay.
that was from my side.
And was that the same for you as well, Divya?
I unfortunately have never had the opportunity to, work on Kubernetes as an upstream contributor via my job. Like, as part of my job, I don't do that. So I actually have to take out time specifically for anything that I do within the Kubernetes community. And it at times does get overwhelming. It was extremely overwhelming for me as a lead shadow, because like I said, I was aware of only certain aspects of the project, and I was not able to sort of grasp the other areas. But as a shadow or as a lead, that's what your fellow members in the team are there for. So you sort of bank upon each other as a community to helpful. Obviously, there is no doubt to that. As a community, people are very helpful. People, are responsive, and maybe not immediately, but they do respond. Uh, but it's very intimidating when you are doing this over and above your job, because you feel like you're not able to give the exact time commitment that the role deserves. And I constantly kept feeling that throughout the cycle, because some of the meetings, like everybody here knows, some of the meetings are not held in an exactly APAC friendly time zone. So it's very difficult during some days to actually attend. And having a personal life and doing having a daily job and working within open source is a totally different ball game than what I anticipated it to be. It's intimidating, but it's well worth the effort, because you actually get to learn a lot more than you signed up for. So yeah.
Awesome. Thank you. Ray, anything you want to add there?
Yeah, so I've been pretty lucky where I've had lots of support from the company I work with, SUSE and Rancher Labs. They totally supportive of me contributing to upstream, and know that sometimes I have to block off some time to work on upstream with the meetings involved and with just the task involved. So I've been really lucky with that. I do encourage that as well, just to every before every release, I just kind of ping my ping my manager and say I'm doing this and this and this. It's like, yeah, it sounds great. And it's like Sonia mentioned, some teams are the time commitments are different. Like enhancements is very front of the release cycle heavy. So you with enhancements, you're very busy from the first few weeks up to probably middle of the release cycle. Docs is it's much more middle to late to the release heavy. Release notes is much more late release heavy, but it gives you that time to ramp up during release notes, to get comfortable with Krell, to get comfortable with the sub command as well. Also make improvements as well. So each team or sub team in the release team has different time commitments, and when those time commitments are. What I like to say is that you get out of the release team is SIG Release, and what you get out of it correlates to how much you put in. So also, like, as if you put in a lot into the work or into the community involvements with the release team, you are going to get so much out of it as well. So just learning the different repos and learning the different processes. If you spend the time to be active and to learn about the release process, you're going to get a lot out of it.
All right, thank you. What I find interesting so far is we've heard words like intimidating, and we've heard words like a lot of work, and we've heard words like, that it also takes a lot of time. But also, you've all just told me that you've all signed up for multiple releases. Like some of you went back to 118, some of you said 120. Like, so this is clearly something that you all feel is maybe challenging or difficult as it can be, or time consuming. Must be rewarding. Would that be fair to say? Yes.
Very rewarding.
So you would all encourage people to sign up for being a shadow in the 123 release, right?
Oh,
Yes.
definitely.
Yeah, definitely.
Just to have this opportunity to be part of a welcoming open source community, definitely sign up to be a shadow for 123.
All right. Well, I have very kindly set up a little short link which will take you directly to the Google form to sign up for the become a release shadow. So please check that out. I'll leave that up for just a few minutes. I'll cover my own head. I don't want to cover you, Divya. There we go. So can we just then, for the people that are curious, being a shadow is not a release team lead, right? You're there to watch, understand, contribute, and learn. What was your first shadow experience like, Ray?
It was very intimidating because when I first thought release notes was going to be, the easiest, and it might be. I'm not too familiar. I wasn't part of every single team in the release team, but it was very intimidating knowing all the different repos. Plus, when I was in there 118, there was a change into the process of generating the release notes. So you have to build the curl tool locally on your local machine. um, Make sure you have the proper version of Go as well. So there's a lot of dependencies involved with it. So also, yeah, so it's very intimidating. But the people on your team, the other shadows, your team lead they're super helpful. They're very encouraging. My first release notes team lead was very encouraging to me, and encouraged me to to step up a little bit and to play around with the tool to generate the release notes. So, and the and the other shadows as well. And tell you the truth, we're still the other shadows. We're all still pretty good friends, even though we haven't met each other. But we're all pretty good friends in Slack, and um, yeah, and also we've also continued with the release in SIG release as well. So it was very intimidating, but after spending a little bit of time, several Zooms with just to get familiar with the process, it got easier and easier. And the more time you spent in with the release team, it just gets easier and easier as well. Even if you jump from one team to another, you still yeah, it's good to get that insight of what the other teams do in the release team process or in the release process as well. But yeah, it was intimidating first, but I highly suggest, don't be discouraged. There's a lot of people to help you out if it is intimidating. Same with the time commitment as well. There's so many people on your team to help you out if you have, life happens. So there's unexpectancies with life, and so it's totally fine. And it's such a welcoming team and community that encourage everyone to apply, and don't be intimidated. Don't be scared of the time commitments, because there's people to help out.
All right. I'm curious, I don't know if you'll remember, but what made you interested in applying to become a release shadow the first time? What was the draw?
I'll start. So, personally, for me as a student, I believe it was the easiest way to get involved. And also, it has less time commitments as compared to other things. uh, Also, we had a conference called KubeCon last year, and during my mentorship program we used to invite a lots of guests who were directly involved with CNCF projects. And at that time, Nikita and Nabarun, I got in touch with them, and they mentioned to me about this program. Actually, it sounds cool to me. I don't think much. I just hit the submit button.
Nice. And do you still communicate with the people from the first release team you were in? Are you still friendly?
Yeah, yeah, we are friends now, and sometimes we take out time to hang out. Yeah, chill with each other. So, yeah, I made a lots of good friends, which is also a very difficult thing being an adult.
Awesome.
So, yeah, it was good.
Yeah, it sounds like the people almost kind of come first in the project and the code comes second. Like, I think so many friendships happen from getting involved with projects like this. And I love hearing other people's stories just about how they still stay in touch with people they worked with for a little bit. What about you, Divya? What was your first release team like?
So my first release was shadowing Savita for dogs. It came full circle when I shadowed Savita as a lead this time around. But honestly, for me personally, I treasured that experience, and like Ray said, it was simultaneously intimidating as well because. Uh, Savita, according to me, knew everything about documentation when and as compared to that, I barely knew anything. And I was like, what exactly is Git push? Because in my day job, we really don't use GitHub at all. So I had to start with the very basics of GitHub, learn that, understand what a branch sync was. So we do that integration branch sync quite a few times in Docs. So understand that and understand what the nitty-gritties were with respect to the project. And once I think that was done, it became fairly easier for me to go to the next section and ask to be a shadow there, um, because I did not feel as intimidated as I did when I started off. And the reason why I got interested in the very first place was I recently transitioned into a management role at my work, and I did not know this back then, but I wanted to gain some sort of leadership experience outside of my job to understand what leadership would look like if I actually managed to do it at my job as well. It sounds stupid right now, but I think leading the com cycle ahead of my promotion this year really helped me understand and develop an empathetic attitude towards people. Given that I had to work with people across different time zones, even when I was leading comms. In my day job, though, I don't have to really work across time zones. It's more of a Indian specific team, but it helped me develop a more empathetic and serve. I wouldn't want to put this because it sounds very cliche, but servant leadership sort of a role. It helped me develop that when I actually transitioned to a more management role within my team. So yeah, that was my aim. So now it sounds really stupid when I say it, but yeah.
That's really cool. I'd never thought about that approach before, but I mean, if we think about traditional workplaces, and I use that phrase that I'm not terribly a fan of, but we talk about 9 to 5 in an office, communicating with people that are across the table, signing up to the release team and working in a truly distributed, asynchronous way. It's a really interesting way to kind of adapt and pick up some new skills that are required and get familiar with remote work. I hadn't really put that together. And to take on the lead of a team responsibility and build up that skill set there as well, that's really cool. I like that a lot. Let me change the question a little bit then and pass it back around to everybody. But you've all been members of the release team throughout 2020 and 2021. Like we call these the COVID releases, if you will. Did that add any strain or pressure to the role? I mean, or does it not affect online projects like Kubernetes?
It did. I think release 119 was extended quite a bit. So correct me if I'm wrong. Might be trying to remember which release was around the time. Remember Taylor was the lead, and that was
119,
at
the
119.
positive
And
release set, if I remember correctly.
yes, yeah. And so that was a release that where the whole world was in upheaval from COVID, and we extended that release cycle quite a bit. As for additional pressure, personally, no, but what it did give me was, and I guess also with remote work as well, it gave a sense of more normalcy of making friends through Slack and through the release team. And it kind of helped me out, I guess, through these times with COVID-19, because you communicate more with others, you make good friends going through this release process, and there's a positive outcome. Like you help produce a Kubernetes release as well. So for me, it helped me. So so I don't know if it was almost to the height of I guess of therapy for shelter in place and COVID-19, but for me, it certainly helped me out throughout this whole pandemic.
Awesome. Anything you'd like to add, Sonia?
Yep. Actually, I also have same opinion as Ray. The only downside for me was the time zones. They were not IST time zone friendly, but apart from that, I made good friends. Also, while reading the enhancement proposals, I came to know what are the features we are going to have in the Kubernetes, how the whole structure. How the whole release structure is going to have. So also that added a great into my resume as well, and opened a lot of job opportunities. So I would definitely say to people to go forward and apply for it.
And Divya, would you like to add anything else on?
Not really, because I think Ray and Sonia covered it all. But what I would say, is a big plus one. I think Dims, who's like the most famous member of Kubernetes, and sorry, Dims, if I'm calling you the oldest, but the oldest member as well. In terms of the number of years he's been with the community, um, he said that come for the contribution, stay for the community, or come for the swag and stay for the community. He reiterates this in every conference that he goes to. So I would really say that wherever or whatever outlook you have when you start off. With community contributions. So I started off with an end goal of developing better leadership skills. The jury's still out if I have developed them, but at least I have had an experience. So irrespective of whatever your end goals are, end up learning and gaining a lot more than what you came for. So, with respect to COVID, it saved me and helped me stay sane. So, a lot of, like a lot of others across the world, we lost some. I mean, I lost some dear members of my close family and friends, and this community helped me stay sane. um, I wouldn't recommend my working hours to anyone, but it definitely helped that I had something and something other to look into when I had that phase going on in my life last year. So it was really helpful, and I would highly recommend joining the release team, but definitely not my working hours. So please don't copy paste the exact version of my working hours anywhere. So yeah, COVID. I mean, it saved me from staying sane. I mean, it saved me from the going insane during this pandemic. So really, thanks. I'm actually thankful to a lot of people who helped me get started. So that'll probably take up another 25 minutes of your show. So I think I'll just give it back to you.
All right, thank you. And I'll also just, I wouldn't be brave enough to say Dims is the oldest, but I will say that Dims is probably one of the most helpful, mentoring, welcoming people in the Kubernetes community. Yeah, definitely. Thank you, Dims, for all your hard work. Okay. What about for people that are watching that are like, they're now sold, right? I think we've given them a nice, compelling story of the beauty of working and joining SIG Release and all the benefits to it. What prior knowledge do they need? Do they need to be Kubernetes experts? Do they need to be developers? Like, can someone who's never touched Kubernetes nor or code come in and be a member of SIG Release? Anyone got any thoughts there?
Yeah, personally, I don't think you need to be a Kubernetes expert or to be a developer to contribute to SIG Release. SIG Release is a great opportunity for no code contributions to the community. It's helpful. I mean, personally, I am a Kubernetes user. Use it almost every day professionally.
I'm sorry.
So yeah, but Yeah, so it does help out, but you don't need to know Kubernetes. But you will certainly learn a lot about Kubernetes once you are part of SIG Release. You don't need to have any coding experience or know Kubernetes or be an expert in Kubernetes. But yeah, but you'll certainly learn a lot about it and afterwards. So.
Awesome. Would either of you like to add anything else? Sonia, Divya?
Yeah, so first of all, hey Fox, thank you so much for joining and listening to this live stream. I would like to say it's okay to not know anything, to feel intimidated at the first look of the Kubernetes ecosystem, to get lost, to from where to start from. I would say just gather enough courage and say hi on the Slack. There are lots of abundant resources and the people who will help you to get started. We have a place for everyone, no matter what your background is, even you are not from the tech industry. Also, yeah, the applications are open. Just go through them, ask questions in the Slack. If you're having any kind of doubt, ask for review maybe. You know and yeah, just hit the submit button.
All right. Thank you, Sonia. Divya, anything to add there?
Yeah, just a perspective that's a little different from Sonia and Ray, but I think it does a plus one to what they said. You don't need any coding experience or any Kubernetes experience, but do need to have the hunger to learn, and you also need to ensure that you have the time to actually commit to that particular area of the release, because I don't know who said this around a while back, I guess, in the same session that we're having right now, that what you put into it is what you get back, or maybe even 10 times more. So you basically need to put in that time commitment without having any inhibitions or anything, because only when you put in that time commitment to learn and to understand more about the Kubernetes ecosystem is it going to reap benefits in any sphere, whether it be in terms of learning, whether it be in terms of a job, whether it be in terms of anything. You need to have that will to learn, and you need to have the time commitment pat down, because if you don't do that, you're not going to get anything out of the release. Sure, you will be a release shadow according to the line you put on your resume, but if you're actually looking to gain something that is more tangible in terms of experience or in terms of learning, you need to put in the time and you need to put in that work hours to actually understand the ecosystem. That's when it pays off. So I would definitely encourage everyone to apply, but also be mindful that it's a burden on your time. It's a commitment of your time. I wouldn't say burden, but it's a commitment of your time. And if you're not able to make that time commitment, whatever that you do is not going to reap any benefits. So this comes from personal experience, because I have made a mistake, not with Kubernetes specifically, but with other open source projects where I couldn't dedicate the time, and I used to be frustrated last year that I couldn't understand a lot of the projects that I was getting into. So unless you are willing to put in the time, it'll not be much of a beneficial activity if you get in and you're not doing anything. So it'll be a good line on your resume, but that is going to be the long and short of what the experience is. So
Awesome. Thank you. All right. I'm going to give you a question to think about for the next few minutes. And then I'm going to, while you are thinking, I'm going to ask a question from the chat, and then we'll be finishing up for today. So what I want you to think about for the next couple of minutes is, what's the thing you enjoyed most about working on the release team? And what one piece of advice would you give to anyone watching that's going to sign up for 123? So think about that. And now I'll handle the question that we have in the chat. So Anubhav Varden has asked, I've applied to be a release shadow on 123 for SIG Docs. Could I have a brief overview of what I will be doing if I get accepted? So does anyone remember the responsibilities for SIG Docs and want to share them with us?
Yeah. So with so with SIG docs, first you kind of you start more in the middle of the release cycle. So the first few weeks might be a little quiet. With SIG docs is that it's kind of a handoff from the enhancements team. So once the enhancements collate and gather what enhancements are going to be targeted in 1.23, what the docs team does is to verify if there's any documentation updates needed for each of those enhancements that will be targeted in 1.23. Once they confirm that, they go through and they follow that life cycle of that documentation update. So they make sure that there's a PR made for the Kubernetes slash website repo targeting the right branch for 1.23, make sure that that is up to review by a certain deadline to make sure that that review is done, either a technical review or we'll have a technical review and a documentation review as well, and you could also do the review yourself. And then finally is to merge that documentation update into the one dev 123 branch of Kubernetes slash website, which is the repo for the Kubernetes website. Then there's quite a bit more on towards the end of the release, lots of Git as well. So if you're not familiar with Git, it's totally fine, and people will help you out and learn and teach you how to do syncs for the integration branch. So part of it also, you maintain an integration branch. Then you have this integration branch will be merged into the main branch on release day. So you maintain that integration branch by doing branch syncs. So there might be some merge conflicts during when you do these syncs, but people will help you and walk you through these merge conflicts. So don't be scared of merge conflicts. The reason why we constantly sync and maintain this integration branch because we don't want merge conflicts on the very last day, on the release day. So make sure we handle them before that. After that, yeah, on the release day, you merge you merge the integration branch with the main branch. The new documentation is updated on the Kubernetes website. You also do some Git tagging as well to create the last snapshot of of the last release, initial tag of the new release as well. So that's kind of docs in a few minutes.
Awesome. Thank you. I'll just share one thing on my screen for people that are watching. There is a repository on GitHub. It is Kubernetes slash SIG dash release. And if you go into the release teams, the handbooks for all of the roles are here. I would strongly encourage everyone to come in and just read through these and see which roles appeal to you and apply for the ones. I guess I've got one more question we can talk about. Would you encourage people to apply for multiple roles to increase their chances of selection, or would you encourage them to just pick one and hope for the best? Anyone got any tips there?
Can I go first, if that's okay?
Please
go
go,
ahead.
Divya. Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah. So, honestly speaking, and I want to be brutally honest here. Please, be very specific about what you want to apply for. Why? I will also give the reasoning. Um, it it does. I mean, applying for multiple roles might increase your chances, no doubt about it. But you also need to be aware after reading the handbooks that I think David just showed now, about what you're interested in, because like I said, it's some roles are more demanding in times of term commitment as opposed to others. So if you are applying for every single role that's there on the form, and you just end up confusing every role lead that's there in this cycle, it's a big chance that you are going to be picked by some team that actually does not um, cater to your strengths and to your skill sets, and you will probably not have a great experience and might feel demotivated at the end of it all. So, very practical advice, and I don't know if anybody here agrees with me, but I would say be very specific, read the role handbooks, and then apply. Because, sure, applying for multiple roles makes sense. You put your eggs in different baskets, all of that makes sense. But if you actually do not specify, it's going to be an experience that you are not going to treasure, or you are not going to get much value out of.
Great advice. Thank you for that. Uh, Anyone want to add anything else before I give you your two questions? No? Okay. Should people shouldn't be discouraged if they don't get selected, right? Like I think there's a lot of selections these days and a limited number of positions. I guess would the advice be just to try again at each release?
To try again, or there's many different ways to be part of the Kubernetes community. Join a SIG, join a SIG meeting, see if that interests you as well. Like if you want to make some, if you're a technical writer or want to do some technical writing, join a SIG docs meeting. It's on Tuesdays, and you can find out what the what time that is in your time zone. And I just encourage people to don't be discouraged if you're not selected, to try again and to look. And there's many different ways to be part of Kubernetes community outside of SIG Release.
Yeah, we're going to do our best on LGTM to get more of those no code contribution methodologies across to people. So there'll be plenty of ways for you to contribute to Kubernetes. I think, as we've all said at one point during today's session, is like it's a huge project and there's lots of ways to contribute. Recycle release is just one of many. All right, let's finish up with the two questions. Can I, from each of you, have what did you enjoy most from being a member of SIG Release, and one piece of advice for people watching? We'll start with you, Ray, and then loop round again, please.
So for me, what I enjoyed most, it gave me a lot of confidence in the community to, because when you first start, you're shy to do Slack messages, to make comments, because not as experienced. But as you ramp up and you build experience, it gave me a lot of confidence. So, and SIG Release has also led me to contribute to other SIGs as well, SIG Docs. I'm a sub project owner with SIG Security as well, so kind of led to those other contributions. So. One piece of advice as well is to put some time into it. If you're selected on a release team as well, devote a little time into learning that role, and reach out to others. And so there's two pieces of advice: reach out to others as well if you need any help. People are willing to help you. So everyone from the person who's been part of SIG Release the longest, Dim's super helpful. Yeah, so everyone will help out, and everyone, if not, someone will help out, and just reach out. So.
All right, awesome. Thank you, Ray. And Sonia?
Yeah, so for me, I will say it adds a lot. It added a lot to me in terms of personal development. Uh, I improved my communication skills. How to reach out to people, and yeah, and if I go technically, I got to know how the whole Kubernetes release is structured, how we are improving the release tooling, the artifacts that are generated, how we are having it up to the level. So yeah, apart from that, the friends, the people that I got connected to, that was one of the best thing happened.
Awesome. And do you have a piece of advice?
Well, I would say, when if you join to the community, Kubernetes community, connect to the people, reach out to them, don't be shy to ask questions, because the more you will ask, the more you will grow.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah.
And Divya?
So I think I'll go with the advice bit first, because everybody's spoken about the good things. So my advice would be, the RT shadowing process is a very competitive one. So there's a chance that if you apply, we get, like, I think last cycle we got around 100 plus applications for around 30-ish roles. So you can understand the amount of competition that's there. And this is not just from one specific country or one specific continent, it's from across the globe. So please don't be demotivated if you don't get in at the very first try. There are other opportunities, like I think David and Ray spoke about, uh, and there are several of them across the Kubernetes community. It's RT, so release team. Sorry, I keep on jumping back to my nomenclature. Release team is not the do all and end all of everything. You do have other avenues to get involved in, so please don't get demotivated and feel like, oh, I didn't get into RT, maybe I should not try at all. Please don't do that. Ask around. There are always folks to help you out. And if you do find anyone, please feel free to post on I mean, respective Slack channels. So suppose you're talking about documentation, or you're interested in documentation, post on the respective Slack channel and people will get back to you. And there are a lot of resources with respect to good first issues and stuff like that, and I'm sure David will cover all of them. But yeah, don't get demotivated if you do not get in at the very first try. I know it's a very sad thought to end this thing on, but please don't get demotivated if you don't get into the RT shadow process. Because trust me, it took me 2 tries. So it was not at the first try, I ended up not getting in, and it was only in 190 that I got in finally. So please don't get demotivated and continue trying. If release team is your end goal, you will end up getting it at some point in time, but also explore other avenues within the project, because there might be something that's more suitable for you out there as well. Yeah, that's about it for me.
All right.
Actually, I want to add one more thing here.
Yeah.
There were when I was in the release notes team, there were some of the contributors who didn't got accepted, but they were there as a contributor, not as a release shadow. So yeah, you can always contribute to the team. You don't need to have the release shadow tag, and also it's gonna increase your chance whenever for the next time you are going to apply.
Awesome. All right. Great advice all around there. Lots of positive energy with the things that you enjoy. I love the focus on people as well at this. I think that's what this community is built on, and it's lovely to see so much of that here. I want to say thank you all for your contributions. Ray, best of luck with 123. Does
you.
anyone have any final parting words before we say goodbye? No. All right.
Thank you for your time.
Yes, I do. I do.
All right. Ray said thank you. Divya, please, on you go.
Yeah, I actually wanted to thank you for inviting us onto your show. So thank you. And thank you for having all of us. And it's been a pleasure speaking with you and seeing all of your faces, because it's been the pandemic and I've not seen faces for a really long time. So yeah.
Awesome. All right. Well, everyone, enjoy your weekend. Thank you again. I'll speak to you all soon. Have a wonderful day. Bye.
Bye.